Welcome everybody to yet another episode of Why We Geek, the show where we take a particular facet of geek culture, or in this case sports culture, and we actually go into why we love it, why we're passionate about it, and why we want to cover it. And today is actually a really special one, my friends, because I'm actually being joined by my co-host of the Running the Ropes podcast, David Vito. I'm not sure if you want me to say your last name or not. Are you okay with that?
Oh, you're good with that, man. I'm good with anything you want to do. Introduce me any way you like.
All right, David Vito, how you doing today?
Oh, it's good. It's a beautiful day. Spring is in the air.
We got a big event in like T-minus 4 days.
Yeah, so. It's a Wrestlemania week for wrestling fans. I mean, this is the biggest event of the wrestling fans' year because it's the equivalent of a Super Bowl to the NBA Finals, World Series. And it's all jam-packed into 1 week. It's just so much fun stuff. If you're a wrestling fan, it's one of the best weeks to be alive, you can say.
You could almost say that this is also like the culmination of, if we were to dare call like Raw and SmackDown and all of the shows that they do live, like a regular TV show, this would be the season finale. This would be all of the stories like over the last year culminating to this moment. Because usually after a WrestleMania, they go back to brand spanking new stories, and they usually like in a brand split like we have right now, that's where the trades happen, that's where people get acquired, and so we can tell new stories with new match lineups. And so at that point, WrestleMania is an awesome concept for the fans, as well as I would actually dare say as well as the newcomer, because then you get to a true appreciation for the fans and to see what they love, as well as being able to appreciate it yourself. So as you guys can tell, the topic of today is going to be WWE, pro wrestling, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be one of those things where me and David Vito have had this conversation numerous times, and I've had conversations with this amongst other people that we know, where it's just like, I'm always a very avid believer in geek is passion. Whatever you're passionate about, you're a geek about. And I don't know if you remember this, but I actually got into arguments with a couple of the other people in our class that wanted to do sports radio, who were just like, no, sports isn't a geek thing. There isn't anything geeky about sports. Oh. Do you memorize the numbers of every single player and you could be able to recite their stats verbatim? Yeah. Well, doesn't that mean you're a geek about it?
And I would think so.
Yeah, I've left a couple of people dumbfounded in that regard. But this is one of those things that I'm trying to show with Why We Geek, is that it's not just going to be about your favorite TV show, your favorite anime, your favorite video game. It's also going to be about stuff like this. And so this is going to be an amazing show, and you also get a quick sampling of what you can expect on the Running the Ropes podcast that me and David Vito do. We try to do every week, but usually the internet gods allow us every other week.
Yeah, we've had some up and down struggles, haven't we?
Yes.
With some of the Wi-Fi and weather connections.
But it's okay, because I sacrificed the adequate amount of domes, so I think we'll be okay. So let's go ahead and get things started with the usual question that I try to start off the podcast with, David Vito, is what is the moment that brought you into pro wrestling, that brought you into saying, I am a pro wrestling fan? What was that match, that moment? And can you describe it to us? For me, for example, it was, it actually came much, much, much later than probably you. It actually was like my first, I love a lot of the biopics and a lot of the documentaries that happen over time. And one of the first ones that I watched was Stone Cold's, and being able to see that WrestleMania 13 moment, I believe it was 13, where he was up against Bret Hart and passed out because of the sharpshooter, that already told to me that this was something that I could be passionate about and that a story could be told inside the ring. What was that moment for you, David Vito?
There's so many moments. But the biggest thing that really got me into pro wrestling was the Stone Cold Steve Austin against Vince McMahon era, where Stone Cold was supposed to be like the bad guy, and you know what? He's fighting against the corporate boss and the man that's writing the checks, and you're not supposed to do that. And just as a kid, as a kid watching Stone Cold be the person that the boss was always yelling at, and you're like, you know what? I just like that guy. So I grew up a big Stone Cold fan and watching it. That's what really got me into wrestling, was the Stone Cold era. And I was part of the era where The Undertaker and Kane were kind of debuting.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were probably there when Kane debuted, when he ripped the door off the Hell in the Cell.
Yeah, and The Undertaker, that's got to be Kane from Jim Ross's quote, when Kane debuted, and that was just one of the coolest things you ever see as a fan, so the storytelling is such a big part of pro wrestling that a lot of people who aren't wrestling fans will be like, "Why do you watch it? It's fake and it's stupid and all that stuff." And then obviously the biggest comeback is, what do you watch? You watch Grey's Anatomy, CSI Miami, some of the popular TV shows. Well, you know what? Those are all scripted with actors as well. But pro wrestling tells you a story that you can actually adapt to, I think, sometimes.
It's one of those things that I actually appreciate. I can't remember who said it on What Culture, but What Culture quoted it the best, is that yes, pro wrestling, the wrestling is not fake. The outcome is. Because at that point, it is like a script. It is like a story. It's generated. We know who's going to win. But in the meantime, they have to construct a match around that victory, around that title win, to be able to make it and sell it to the crowd that bought the tickets. So at that given moment, yes, I could actually say that we all get these naysayers where it's like wrestling is fake. And yeah, you're kind of right. But in the end, it is satisfying because you got athleticism out of it, but you also had this awesome story told to you over 1 month, 2 months into a pay-per-view that is just as satisfying as, well, the latest Avengers movie, if you think about it that way.
Just to add on that, there's so many different dynamics to pro wrestling, the way they tell, the way they do stories compared to movies and films and TV shows is totally different, but pretty similar to a point too. Pro wrestling has the ability to tell a story about something that's really relevant in today's time. Where like a movie can be just for that moment in time, and 3 weeks later it's unrelevant anymore. But wrestling, they can adapt to so many things that's happening right now. One of the things I remember when the NFL had a botch replay at one time, and they reversed the call that was wrong. Well, WWE had their little mock of that, so they made the referee go to their monitor and ruin the call like they did in the NFL. So they stay with the time. To keep it relevant, because pro wrestling fans are also, I think, sports fans, and I would even say the Hall of the Wrestlemania week kind of reminds me of Comic-Con. There's where a lot of wrestling fans are going to go see their favorite wrestlers at that time, bring their action figures, just like you would see at a Comic-Con event.
Yeah, that's definitely true. WrestleMania is a pro wrestling fans Comic-Con. It is the mecca that you can go to celebrate all things pro wrestling. So I completely agree with that. Let's go ahead and get into the next question here, David Vito, which is a little bit easier to answer, and it's actually going to be a two-pronged question. Obviously, as a kid, as a teenager, we all have our favorites. We all have the guy that we're going to root for regardless. It doesn't matter if he's a good guy, he's a bad guy, whatever. So here's where it becomes two-pronged. Who was that guy when you were growing up into pro wrestling? And who is that guy in the modern roster today?
Give you two answers for two different companies, because WWF and E at the time was battling WCW, which unfortunately folded. So the WCW era, it was Diamond Dallas Page, who's a little spoiler alert. Probably later on, he'll be headlining one of the headliners of the Hall of Fame this year. So Diamond Dallas Page.
You might dare say he's giving himself a self high five.
Yes, and he would do the diamond symbol. That was one of my favorite guys in WCW. As on the other end, I was one of the biggest Stone Cold fans growing up. The guy that would smash beers together, chug them down, attack the boss, spray Vince McMahon with a beer truck gun, you could call it at one point. It was just one of the coolest moments that you would ever see in the time. And also, you kind of throw The Rock in there, because The Rock kind of took over after Stone Cold left, because Stone Cold's injuries didn't really let him finish off his career. So The Rock came in and kind of stepped up to the plate. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, but the other thing that you could say is that I actually believe, and when I get there, because you kind of hit the nail on the head too, The Rock and Stone Cold are just the two kinds of wrestlers who can bring the absolute best out of each other. And each match that they had Stone Cold and The Rock together in a pay-per-view, absolute magic happens
Oh,
in that ring.
definitely.
I'm just saying.
But by the way, one of the things I shared on social media today is because WrestleMania week, The Rock and Austin's WrestleMania match was amazing every time they stepped in. And The Rock used the Stone Cold Stunner on Austin and tried to pin him and didn't get it out. But The Rock was the final match that Stone Cold ever had, too, to end his career. As for modern day, I mean, there's so many talented superstars, including the women superstars who are really being really noticeable nowadays. You know, back in the early 90s and 2000s, they were more sex symbols. I think that's one way to describe them.
Yeah.
Doing bra and panties matches, posing for Playboy. Because that was WWE's biggest market was college kids and men over, a certain age of 21. That was a big dynamic. But again, going back to your second question about who is the modern superstar I like today, a lot of people don't like him anymore, but I'm a big fan of John Cena. And John Cena is one of those guys that I like because of just the way he is. And I think one of the biggest impacts why I like him is what he does more outside the ring than he does inside the ring.
Yes, he does. He's been, a lot of people like to point up The Rock as being the one who's contributed the most to WWE. I actually can honestly believe it's fair, but I believe John can actually say he's done more than The Rock at this point, because not only has he done so much in the ring, not only has he held multiple titles, not only has he carried the flag to, sport. Like the sports shows, award shows, Saturday Night Live, talk shows, things like that. But now you have him going and doing shows like American Grit. He's been doing movies that are, like a lot of people want to give him crap, but The Marine is probably one of the most successful WWE films that has ever come out. So at that point, John has done more for the brand than I think anybody ever realizes that he has. And that's saying
definitely.
something. That's saying something because then you're putting him right up next to The Rock, and I would even dare say he's done more than Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan did a lot for the industry back in the day.
But the only thing different about Hulk Hogan, who was the biggest icon in WWF at the time, which is now known as WWE, he did so much. But I think after he left WCW, I mean, he was the biggest impact for WCW at the time too, and one of the biggest names in World Championship Wrestling's history. But John Cena, being a guy that never left really and has stuck by the company and really hasn't took much time off, unlike The Rock. The Rock left for a while, did a lot of movies. Scorpion King was where he started off his movie career, and then he really left WWE behind. And that feud they had at WrestleMania, where John Cena said, "You left, I didn't." And now John Cena, yeah, let's be fair, he has left, but I don't think he's left as much as some of the other superstars have in the past and present.
No, he hasn't. But one of the things that makes me a little bit more hopeful is he's actually started to realize how much of an impact that's had on his industry as a whole. And so the fact that he's actually willing to adapt and, because I don't know if you saw the episode of Talking Smack where he actually came out and said, I did apologize to The Rock over all of that stuff. Because now he realizes how great that was for the brand, for the business, and how much recognition it got. I mean, for crying out loud, we've got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson getting ready to do Fate of the Furious. He's set for at least, well, he's got Baywatch, so you guys can all look forward to that. Rock in slow motion. But you've also got him slated for at least 2 DC movies. So that puts him into the superhero universe, and that's just going to raise his appeal. And there's even still talk, I don't know why, but there's still talk that he's got a campaign commission for friggin' 2020. So there you go. So yeah, great answers by the way. And I don't hate the concept of John Cena. Like, again, I will always appreciate John Cena for at least this one concept. When you think of wrestling, you think Hulk Hogan, you think The Rock, and now you think John Cena. Love him or hate him, you think John Cena.
100% you do. And John Cena, he's a 16-time world champion now. A person you didn't recognize is Ric Flair, who's also a 16-time world champion. I mean, that's a really, really big company to be a part of. I mean, you think John Cena is almost similar to like what Triple H was in his era. You know, the guy that was the face of the company and just didn't. But John Cena didn't have a rivalry like back in the Attitude Era. Now, back in the Attitude Era was the biggest pop you could say from the wrestling industry, where you had like Triple H, The Undertaker, Kane, Austin, and Rock. You don't really have that many big guys. It's more, I hate to say B players, but you have a lot of really good, talented, average players that are trying to come up and be the next John Cena. And there's a reason why John Cena is still relevant, is because WWE hasn't found that next guy yet.
No, they haven't. I think I've got a couple of people waiting in the wings, but whether or not they bring in John Cena numbers is anybody's guess at this point. But I will say that I do think John has a rivalry. I don't know if it's necessarily the best rivalry in the world, but for John it is. I would dare say his rivalry with Randy Orton has always been something that people can go to, and they know they're going to get a good match out of it.
Yeah, Randy Orton was really good rivalry between those two. I mean, they had some good stuff back and forth, but then as their careers get later and they tried to do what they used to do when they were like younger, it just wasn't the same, and it was kind of like you're beating a dead horse to say. I mean, it's tough to have that rivalry live on. I mean, The Rock and Austin could have went on for another 20 years,
yeah.
I think, and people would have still watched it.
They had, what, 3 acclaimed matches that people reference, and there's matches in between, but they could have easily gone for a good couple of years if Austin had not gotten the injury that he did. I mean, you could have gotten maybe another 5 to 10 years out of Austin, and he would have loved every minute of it.
And you talk about putting sales numbers up. Austin's one of the all-time sales leaders too in WWE history. He drew a lot of people coming to the house shows and live events that he was at, and he knew it. I mean, he was the main attraction of sports. I mean, especially with him and Mike Tyson had a thing going. I mean, that was the hottest thing in the sports industry at that time. I would even say.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind also is that I still to this day meet people who are wearing Austin 316 t-shirts who have no idea what that reference is.
Oh, man.
They just got it at Spencer's Gifts one day, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I like that that's a Bible reference. I'm like, it's a pro wrestling reference. Really? Yeah. Austin 316 says I whooped your ass.
Yes, that's correct.
There you go. So let me go ahead and get into mine, because I actually think that they'll couple with you. Because here's the thing. I'm gonna follow you too, because I watched WCW and in its latter years, before it went under, and I do have some favorites from them as well. My favorite would, see, I want to say DDP, because I love DDP, but I came in at the latter end of his career, and therefore, like, all the big, awesome stuff that I saw much, much, much later. So I would actually dare say the wrestler that I followed and loved when I was watching WCW at the time is Booker T. Booker T, like to me back in the day, one of the problems I had with WWE was there was no such thing as a fighting champion. Now, here's the thing, people. I know why they don't do that now. But as a teenager, I'm like, well, if you have the belt, you should defend it every time there's an event, kind of thing. And Booker T was that fighting champion, because back in WWE days, I think at that point Triple H had reclaimed the belt, so he was a classic heel. He wasn't defending against anybody, and Booker T was defending every single Nitro, every single Thunder, and made me appreciate that character and what Booker T could do in the ring. It's just a crying shame he went over to WWE, and the most acclaimed thing that he's ever done was the grocery store brawl with Stone Cold.
Which was awesome, by the way.
But then came... Okay, I'm going to piss people off, but I don't like this gimmick. The King Booker gimmick. I never, ever got behind it.
Oh.
I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did, but the King Booker gimmick annoyed the crap out of me, because every time I saw him come out to that music, I just like, I want Don't Diss back. I want Harlem Heat back. Can we get Harlem Heat back? So
yes.
That's my favorite old school star of WCW. My favorite Attitude Era, I'm gonna go with you too, because Austin and Rock. Here's the thing. I didn't know who The Rock was until for some reason my dad was watching an episode of Star Trek Voyager, and it was the episode with The Rock in it.
Uh-oh.
And then at that point I'm like, wait, haven't I seen that guy? And I went back and watched the Star Trek Voyager episode. I'm like, wait, what? And then I found out about his like legit career and how he's the third generation superstar and the legacy behind him. So I love The Rock, but Stone Cold.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap, man. How Stone Cold has defined 90s culture as far as I'm concerned.
100%. 100%.
I mean, for crying out loud, you brought him into Celebrity Deathmatch on MTV. And
that was great.
And he's the funniest damn thing in that show. Like
yeah.
I love the concept when they actually came up with Stone Cold invented a time machine so that George Washington and Abraham Lincoln could beat the crap out of each other. That's something that happened.
Yes, yes.
I will always appreciate Stone Cold and The Rock. And here's the thing. I've seen a lot of their matches in retrospect because I didn't have access to pay-per-view at the time, but they're all gems. Every WrestleMania they took on each other is a match that I think is must-see in any of their reels. There are even some matches outside of WrestleMania that I think that they still can hit the nail on the head really hard. So I'm with you. I think The Rock and Austin are amazing old stars. My modern star is, well, David Vito knows who it's going to be because I can't really ignore it. It has to be the phenomenal one himself, AJ Styles. And the reason that I have that is I've stated it in the Running the Ropes podcast, but I'll state it here. I was watching WCW in their tail end, and their last two broadcasts just so happened to bring in a new talent. He was in a tag team at the time by the name of AJ Styles. And he was a high-flying talent. He was very small compared to everybody else, but he could hold his own. And it was amazing to watch. And then WCW bit the dirt, and he went to go wrestle maybe one or two matches with WWE, and then he got canned. Now, to my knowledge, if you got canned by WWE, your wrestling career was done. That's what I thought at the time. Little did I know, he was off wrestling in the indies, then went off to a little promotion, I don't know, we've covered it a couple of times. Maybe you guys have heard of it, called TNA, where he literally got called Mr. TNA. He made that brand along with another guy that we might be talking about a little bit later by the name of Samoa Joe. And then he went off to Japan, made himself explode even more by having great matches with Shinsuke Nakamura, amongst others. And now he is one of the top tier talents of WWE. So this is like one of the few talents I've been able to watch from day one and come to this climax, this ultimate moment of he is in WWE. He's been the WWE champion. AJ Styles has pretty much hit the pinnacle of his entire damn career.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. AJ Styles is one of the greatest performers you'll ever see in and out of a WWE ring or over there overseas, international. I mean, he is his name. He is phenomenal to watch. And like you said, we'll get into more stuff about like WrestleMania and everything. And he didn't have the greatest WrestleMania debut as it comes to wins and losses, but he did get a good WrestleMania match last year, and we'll discuss about a match coming up this year too, which we both might disagree on.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, a lot of people were arguing then that AJ Styles didn't deserve Chris Jericho. And that's saying nothing against Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho's a good guy, but we have to be realistic. Chris is in the twilight of his career kind of thing. He's getting up there in years. So at that point, to feed Chris to AJ was probably not the best decision in the world, but the bottom line is there wasn't any star that was available other than Chris that would have matched up to what we expected from AJ. So at that point, because like Roman was taken, because he was facing Triple H, Seth Rollins was injured. A lot of those top tier talents weren't there yet for him to be able to wrestle, so Chris Jericho was a logical choice. And it was still a good match. And yeah, the current match that we have this year, there's issues with it, but at least they're selling it really well.
Oh yeah, and it's making me buy into it as a fan. I'll tell you that right now. And it's just like last year, there was a match just similar to last year with The Undertaker we were all kind of shaking our head too, saying, "Are you really sure you want to do this?" I mean, and then speaking of the Undertaker, he's one of the greatest superstars that is aging and coming up on his end of his career as well, which is one of the greatest superstars that we're not even mentioning right now as one of our top favorites, but he's one of the greatest WWE superstars as well. He's been relevant. He's never had to change his character over the last 25 years, which is really remarkable in the business.
Absolutely not. The legacy that Mark Calloway has left, I'm going to say his actual name, Mark Calloway, aka The Undertaker, has left on the wrestling business as well as on WWE. There's no topping it. There's no way you're not talking about it, because not only did he take this gimmick that was handed to him and basically take straw and make it into solid freaking gold for 25 plus years. He made this thing into freaking gold. Like, there's a reason Vince has to have him for WrestleMania, guys. He has to be there, because even if he's got craptastic matches, Vince knows, I bring The Undertaker, I'm going to get butts and seats. So at that point, his legacy will not be denied. Just because Rock and Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan are recognizable does not mean that The Undertaker doesn't have just as much recognizable nature to him as they do. He's just more known within the wrestling circles. That's the difference. And speaking of, yet another wrestler who made its way onto Celebrity Deathmatch.
That was a great show, by the way, when those wrestlers were on it. It made me watch Celebrity Deathmatch more, because I knew, especially Stone Cold was like becoming a regular.
Yeah, well, I mean, Stone Cold actually voiced Stone Cold. The sad part is that Mark Calloway did not actually voice The Undertaker in Celebrity Deathmatch. But the fact that he got that recognition for him to go into something that was really popular at the time, it just made people go, okay, well, who's The Undertaker? And at that point, a fledgling thing called the internet was out, and you could go do a search and find out who The Undertaker was.
Oh, yeah. I remember
and now
that.
the biggest question that happens with every WrestleMania, I'm talking the day after this WrestleMania, this will be a question that will be asked, what's The Undertaker doing? Because everybody wants to know.
What's he doing?
So, exactly. What match is he going to be having? And we'll be speculating on it for the entire year.
Oh yeah, I know. And that's what one of the coolest parts about The Undertaker is we never know what he's going to do the following year. We don't know if he's ever going to retire. Obviously, one of the biggest matches of his career was him losing to Brock Lesnar and making only that one loss in his WrestleMania career. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was like, man, this is the end of The Undertaker. We're not going to see him anymore. This is how they're going to end his career.
I thought the streak was going to be it. I literally thought he was going to walk out, and I thought it was rigged so that he could walk out in the sunset, and then he did the next year. And in fact, I think he did a pay-per-view a couple of months later where he won against Brock, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So at that point,
he beat him in a cell.
Yeah, so at that point, I mean, as much as we want to say, this is going to be Taker's last match, Taker decides when it's going to be his last match.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Not Vince, even though Vince runs the company. Not anyone else that's in WWE. What Undertaker says, it's over, it's over. And one more thing on The Undertaker is, I really wish he was fighting John Cena this year. I think this should have been the match that we talked about on our podcast, Running the Ropes, various times, that if John Cena needed an opponent, it should have been The Undertaker, and vice versa. And it would have been kind of like Hogan versus Rock. John Cena versus The Rock. It would have been that kind of match. And sadly, I don't think we're ever going to see it.
Well, the sad part is like, I don't know if you actually saw that SmackDown episode, but it actually it pissed me off just as much as John was on the mic, where he said, if I was doing what I actually wanted to do, I'd be wrestling The Undertaker this year. And I actually screamed out, damn right you would.
Oh, hands down he would.
And no, instead we're getting Undertaker v. Roman Reigns. So that's... And one thing...
That's a whole other story.
One thing before we get into the next discussion here, because we do actually need to get into the WrestleMania card and the Hall of Fame, I'm going to recommend to you, go watch the maybe I'll even link it to you. What Culture did a nice little how WWE should book Undertaker's retirement, where they actually went into a theory of like how John Cena should challenge him. And it was an awesome prospect of like just going over into each other's careers and seeing how much The Undertaker has shaped John Cena, but also how The Undertaker has shaped himself over the years. And I love their idea. I wish that the writers would have seen it.
Yeah, and I mean, for anyone who's a wrestling fan, you know the very first day John Cena debuted was he lost to Kurt Angle. And funny thing about Kurt Angle, I was watching a mini documentary on the network last night where Angle was talking about one of his most memorable stuffs, and he goes, "When I met John Cena, I threw everything at him, and I was trying to make this rookie look bad, and I couldn't do it." And after that match, John Cena was his hand shook The Undertaker, and that's how you start the storyline of John Cena versus The Undertaker. Is you go back to that moment and say everything leads up from that moment to now. And who knows, maybe because we know John Cena's got some stuff coming up after WrestleMania that's non-wrestling. Maybe this is the time they maybe try to book that. For maybe that's how Undertaker finished his career out. Despite speculations that this could be his final WrestleMania, we've heard that every year about The Undertaker. Don't count him out yet.
Well, and here's the thing, too, is we already have the next WrestleMania booked, and wouldn't it be awesome if, just like we got the hype of Once in a Lifetime, the day after WrestleMania, The Undertaker comes out, and he announces that next year will be his last WrestleMania, and there's only one opponent he wants. That would be awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the topics of running the ropes this week, and that is, it's WrestleMania week, everybody. It's the ultimate thrill ride. We are all excited for what's going to happen, and let's go ahead and start things off with the weekend, or the couple of days before WrestleMania, and that is the Hall of Fame. So the 2017 WWE Hall of Fame has been announced, and we're going to go over them really quick and just kind of go into our favorite picks, as well as maybe even go into the people who are inducting them, because we know of at least 2 inductees for it. So first of all, we're going to go into Eric LeGrand to receive the Warrior Award at the 2017 WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I love
Definitely deserves it.
I love the Warrior Award. Ever since that they've introduced it, because here's the thing, guys, and me and David know this because we've actually been that guy. When you're a production staff member, you don't get noticed as much as say the talent of the radio show. So like David Vito for his podcast Sports at Home, he would get noticed because he's the talent, but his producer wouldn't. And so that's why I love the Warrior Award, is because that gives that recognition to people who otherwise wouldn't have gotten it. And so congratulations to Eric LeGrand. But I'm going to go ahead and move things along because we've got a huge card to talk about. We also just barely got the announcement of Ravishing Rick Rude to the WWE Hall of Fame. This is one that still surprises me to this day. It hasn't happened already. I don't know much about Rick Rude's career, and my only guess is that it took so long is because of the whole, he appeared on Raw and Nitro the exact same night, and he had a handshake, and he went against that. But now we can honestly say that the Ravishing Rick Rude, dare I say, one of the authors of a faction you might be aware of, known as D-Generation X, has finally made his way into the Hall of Fame.
Real quick about that story you just brought up about him being on 2 shows at once. This was back in the day when wrestling was taping every other Monday night. Raw WWE was. It wasn't live as it is now. Despite a few shows overseas and everything like that, that's the only time WWE isn't live anymore. But on that night, Rick Rude was, he was being taped on WWE, so they knew he was going to be on it. And then Triple H and them flip over to WCW and they go, "Oh wait, what's he doing there?" So yeah, Vince McMahon. Let's just say him and Rick Rude weren't the best of friends after that happened.
No, and frankly, this is one of those situations where I'm very happy that it's like Bruno Sammartino. It's the Ultimate Warrior to me. It's like where Vince actually had to be a little bit humble and finally induct somebody that deserves it, but he didn't have the best relationship with. And so I'm very happy that Ravishing Rick Rude has made it into the Hall of Fame. He deserves it, guys. He was a great wrestler back in the day. And I especially loved his own artistic touch when it came to his tights. Man, he was a great artist too. And I don't know if you've actually heard like an interview of Jerry Lawler about Ravishing Rick Rude. It's amazing to learn how much of an artist Rick Rude was. The next up is Beth Phoenix. I'm not necessarily familiar with her career. I know pieces of it, but I'm not entirely familiar on the career. But I always love it when the women are also getting recognized as well. It does make me sad. There was one person I was hoping that was going to make it in, but that's going to be for a later year. And that would be China.
You're thinking of China, yes.
Yes. What are your thoughts on Beth Phoenix? Do you know more about her career?
Yeah, Beth Phoenix, she actually came to WWE in 2006, and one of her first matches was against Mickie James, and then her and Trish Stratus, now a fellow Hall of Famer, became really good partners. She was kind of had a few injuries that sidelined her, that kind of slowed her career on, but other than that, I mean, she's one of the best women's wrestlers we've seen, known as Glamazon, and she would do so many cool things. That she was a two-time women's champion, and she was even in like an Intercontinental winner-take-all type match at SummerSlam back in 2008. Also, one thing, she was a part of the Royal Rumble where she eliminated the Great Khali by kissing him out of the ring.
Oh, I gotta see this now. I did not know that. I gotta see that now.
Yeah.
So moving on up, and here's the one that we have a lot to say about, because again, he needs to give himself a self-high five. Diamond Dallas Page has been inducted, or is going to be inducted, to the WWE Hall of Fame. And he's also being inducted by Eric Bischoff, which does make sense with his history. Because even Eric has admitted, like, there was nothing happening with Diamond Dallas Page until the NWO gave him the angle that rose his career into meteoric levels. I'm just saying, to me, as a Utahn, this is an opportunity missed, because it would have been amazing to have Karl Malone induct Diamond Dallas Page, or even, look, I'm not just saying it has to be Karl. If you brought in Dennis Rodman or Jay Leno, I'd be okay with that too, because really Diamond Dallas Page was also that celebrity connection in WCW for a while there. And so I'm saying nothing against Eric, because I do love Eric as a guy. But I just think it's a missed opportunity with all of the celebrity connections that Diamond Dallas Page has earned over the years.
He's one of the best wrestlers we've seen in a long time. He started really early as a quote-unquote rookie at the age of 35 is when he broke into the business of WCW. He was a WCW champion. The only downfall about his career is when WCW went under. And he was one of those guys that was very similar to Sting. Didn't want to leave WCW, and they wanted to go down with the ship, basically, to say that they didn't want to jump to the other ship that was still floating above. And then when he came to WWE, him and the Undertaker's rivalry wasn't as good as everyone thought it was going to be.
No,
his career
fact,
really went downhill.
That might actually be one of the perfect examples of WWE not knowing what to do with WCW talent, is the whole stalker angle with DDP. Because at that point, I mean, if he had come in, you would have had one of the best heels, or not best heels, best faces of WCW, probably that would have sold that brand better than Booker T. And instead you made him a stalker of the Undertaker's wife. Oh, such a missed opportunity right there.
Big opportunity missed. And by the way, one of the greatest things that I ever saw, and you brought up Karl Malone, is one of the reasons that made me really watch WCW was because I was a big WWE fan all the time. I didn't want to switch over to WCW. I thought WWE was the top brand. But as soon as Karl Malone came on late night television on Jay Leno with DDP and challenged the Worm, Dennis Rodman, and Hulk Hogan, oh, that was a must-see pay-per-view in my eyes at Halloween Havoc.
It was. I've seen it in retrospect, but it was still freaking amazing. And Carl and Dennis, I think, both did really great, considering they were celebrity talent walking in. Didn't really know the things that DDP and Hulk Hogan knew. So I think overall it was actually a really great match, considering how much of a train wreck it could have potentially been, kind of thing. But the other thing that I also want to acknowledge with Diamond Dallas Page is that he's actually had some great dealings with WWE outside of the ring. So people might also be familiar with DDP Yoga, and if not for DDP Yoga, I think it was last year or the year before that, the inductees would not have come in, and that would be Scott Hall and Jake the Snake Roberts. That would not have happened if not for DDP Yoga. And so at that point, I'm also very happy that Dallas has kept such a good relationship with WWE despite these problems happening. So that's also another thing that I'm very happy. That's also another missed opportunity. It should have been Jake that came in and inducted him, or Scott. But oh well. The next one that we got to go into, and I'm gonna couple these together because I'm not saying that there's nothing bad about them, but there's not a whole lot going for them either. The former SmackDown general manager, Teddy Long, is being inducted. Yes. Started all the way back as a referee and made his way to one of the biggest or the most recognizable GMs that has ever held that title in SmackDown history.
Crazy.
And he's amazing, too. I love Teddy Long whenever he comes up on the mic. He's great. Actually, one of my favorite moments was the whole Chris Jericho CM Punk angle where Jericho was constantly hammering him about his his family's alcoholism issues, and Teddy Long just still was able to maintain that GM role, but also keep the fun rolling in SmackDown despite these heavy issues that this rivalry was creating.
Yeah, and Teddy Long is the man that brought tag team wrestling back to TV, one might say. Every time he was a GM, it was a tag team match here, tag team match there. He even put like a 10-man tag team thing on, and Stephanie McMahon was like, I don't think you can do that, but I love the idea. We're going to do it. So Teddy Long is just he's known as a Holla Holla tag team shot caller.
Yeah, the other thing, too, and I've never been able to confirm this, but I would love to, like, if I ever met Teddy Long, I would love to ask him about this, is that he actually wanted to, when WCW was acquired, there was actually a tag team belt that was long forgotten, and he wanted to bring it back on SmackDown, and that was the 6-man tag team champions.
Oh, man.
That would have been amazing if he was able to pull it off, but I could see why WWE didn't necessarily want to do that. So we also have that. We also have speaking of tag teams, one of the greatest tag teams that has ever been in the history books, the Rock and Roll Express, and being inducted by the man himself, Jim Cornette, the guy who I'm pretty certain if he ever comes into contact with Vince Russo, a nuclear bomb will hit in the United States.
Must be a little bit of backstory between those two, huh?
just a tiny bit. You might want to go YouTube it. You might get lucky with a search. So yeah, the Rock and Roll Express, I know a little bit of their history, and it's just because there's so many tag teams that have Express in their names. So I was able to look this up as soon as the announcement happened, and they were a good tag team back in the day. I would actually dare say just as good as, say, the Midnight Express, the Rock and Rollers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Really good momentum-based tag team. It's just a crying shame that, because I don't think they worked out that well in WWE. They worked out better in other promotions.
Yeah,
I might be wrong about that.
The Rock and Roll Express isn't a big tag team that I really was familiar with. They're probably a little bit before my time getting into the wrestling business and really getting into watching it, because some of the greatest tag teams that I remember came after the Rock and Roll Express, which one of my favorite ones was part of DX was Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, New Age Outlaws.
The New Age Outlaws.
And I heard they were pretty similar to the Rock and Roll Express, though.
Fun fact, the only part of DX I ever liked was the New Age Outlaws.
Really? You didn't like X-Pac?
I was not a fan of X-Pac. I think he was utilized better in WCW. That's my personal opinion. And Triple H, I love Triple H now. But back as a kid, I was totally good guy all the way. And anybody who was going to be a bad guy, I was burning them in effigy. So at that point, I love Triple H now. But back then, I absolutely hated his guts. But hey, when the Road Dogg got on the mic, it was damn entertaining.
Every time.
And it's one of those things that actually makes me really, really sad that Billy Gunn didn't get more of a push in singles when Road Dogg left, and it's just because like they did the one Billy Gunn, and I actually liked that theme. I really wish he would have gotten more of a push than he did, but I can kind of see WWE's argument on that. He didn't really have the talent that they were looking for, so instead they put him with Chuck Palumbo. Less said about that, the better.
Yeah, that was a very very interesting type of situation. By the way, speaking of Billy Gunn, there was a picture leaked of, he took a picture of him and his son together. And I after looking at Billy Gunn, I see what kind of stuff he was on, and that he's probably still on why WWE released him of steroids. I'm not saying he's on it, but you look at the most recent picture of Billy Gunn, and you might say, Billy, you haven't learned why you got fired yet, huh?
No.
And I love Billy Gunn, by the way.
But the thing is, I think he actually, because part of the controversy around that was that he wanted to go, I think it was either he wanted to go into bodybuilding or he wanted to get like a powerlifting record. And so I think he's still pursuing that goal. And unfortunately that got in the middle of wrestling and Vince wasn't too happy about it. So that's the way it goes. I mean, it would be great if we actually had Billy Gunn come back and he had like the Mark Henry kind of angle. That'd be awesome.
the world's strongest man is 2.
Yeah, the world's strongest man 2.0. And then at that point we have to bring Mark Henry back so that we can always have these feats of strength all over the place. Yeah, that'd be amazing. That'd be awesome.
So would he be sexual white chocolate, Billy Gunn?
Well, he was Mr. Ass for a long time, so yeah. Yeah, I think so. Maybe he's sexual chocolate with a dash of vanilla.
Oh, okay. It's getting out of hand.
This is a little bit. So let's go into our final inductee, a man who, when he came into WWE, I absolutely hated. But now with the career that he has made, he totally deserves it. The American hero himself, Kurt Angle, is finally being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, which hopefully will not be the end of what they have going. I've heard a couple of things talked about where he might be going to SmackDown to help push American Alpha, but he's also being talked about as being Mick Foley's replacement as the Raw, not GM, because that's Stephanie, the Raw commissioner.
Yep, correct.
So, and both of those roles he'd be amazing in. But yeah, Kurt Angle, I cannot think of a man who deserves this more than you. You have done more for the business than I think even you realize.
Yes.
Because if you listen to Kurt Angle's interviews, he's a very humble guy. And I don't even think he's realized how much he's helped the business. I mean, for crying out loud, he was the only one that got to parody the Stone Cold beer truck gimmick. Okay?
Yeah, that's one of the greatest moments of
he's the only person that has ever been considered the true comedic partner of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So, yeah, the milk truck, the little cowboy hat, just some of the gags between him and Edge and Christian were awesome. Kurt Angle, you more than deserve this. The only thing that makes me sad is I think it's John Cena inducting him, and I almost want to see his first ever rival induct him, but last I checked, Taz doesn't have a really good relationship with WWE right now. So, but that would have been awesome to have, because it was Kurt Angle versus Taz for the longest time. And I love it, because that was a great debut for Taz as well. And so it would have been great to have Taz come out and induct his buddy Kurt Angle into the Hall of Fame. But I could see why they went with John Cena.
Yeah, John Cena is the first guy Kurt Angle wrestled for John Cena's career, I should add, on live television. Kurt Angle's career is so many remarkable stuff. The documentary type thing that's on the WWE Network, or the conversation, I guess you can call it, with Corey Graves. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it yet.
Not yet.
But it's a must watch, and he talks about those moments of the milk truck, where Jim Ross says Milkomania is running wild today. It's just one of the greatest moments you'll ever see. And you're right, he does deserve it. And by the way, if I'm correct, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but he is in the TNA Hall of Fame. He was one of their first ones. Might
Yes.
double check that.
I think he was second or third because Sting was first. I know
Yeah,
that. Sting was
he's one of the
first.
top ones.
And so like second or third was Kurt Angle. And here's the thing, like as much as we love Kurt Angle's WWE Hall of Fame run or WWE run, his TNA run, if you've ever seen any of it, is way, way, way better, in my honest opinion, than anything they ever did with him in WWE. Just through the sheer athleticism that Kurt can dig deep down to get. I think TNA did a better job of getting that side out of him than WWE ever did. Because go ahead.
No, and it just I'm looking up the information here. Kurt Angle was the second inductee to the TNA Hall of Fame, where he was a 6-time TNA World Champion. And by the way, if he didn't have his personal problems with WWE, where it was pain killers, is what I was told that he was really addicted to, and he had some alcohol problems, he could have been that John Cena. He could have been the next person to tie Ric Flair as a 16-time champion. I truly believe that. That's how good he was. And one of my favorite moments too is he fought Shane McMahon at King of the Ring, and Shane McMahon was thrown into the glass, and he hit his head. McMahon did on the floor, and McMahon said, "Throw me through it again this time." And so Kurt Angle got to throw Shane twice through, one of them not breaking, the second one breaking glass through Shane McMahon. That's one of the most iconic moments in wrestling history as well with Kurt Angle.
And one of the things that I would also say about Kurt is like that is probably one of the most recognized Shane McMahon matches ever was between him and Kurt Angle. And the funniest part is that I don't know if have you seen the Stone Cold biopic? So the coolest part about like every single major event that happened with Vince and Stone Cold, he fought with Vince every single time because he didn't want to injure Vince. So like the perfect example is when they did the whole hospital sketch and Stone Cold attacked him in the hospital and hit him over the head with a bedpan. He actually practiced hitting himself with the bedpan to find the sweet spot that would not be so hard that he wouldn't give like a legit concussion to Vince McMahon. Okay? I would dare say Kurt Angle is Shane McMahon's Stone Cold because that whole suplex thing, from what I understand, he fought Shane on minute 1 to minute end. He didn't want to do that to poor Shane because he knew he could. But Shane's like, no, you got to do it because it's going to be a really great spot. And then you had the accident of him, the glass not breaking, him hitting his head, and he's still saying, do it. You got to think going through Kurt Angle's mind right there is, I am going to get fired. I'm going to get sued. I'm probably going to go to jail for murder right now. And he still suplexed him through the glass.
That was amazing.
So, yeah.
Really think about that.
That is really great. And Kurt, you are very much deserving of the Hall of Fame spot you're getting this year. But we're running out of time, so I'm going to pump through. We're going to pump through the predictions of the WrestleMania ticket as quick as we can, but I'm not promising anything. So first of all, we have the Cruiserweight Championship is up for grabs. Neville versus the returning Austin Aries. David Vito, who are you picking and why?
First off, this match should not be on the pre-show. I'm just going to get that out right away. This match and another match that we're going to talk about very shortly should not be on the pre-show. Neville is the champion right now. Austin Aries is making his WrestleMania debut. Neville's coming back from a very serious injury, and he's been nothing but great being a heel, or a.k.a. the bad guy, in the 205. Not 305, like I said in the past. The 205 Live division of the Cruiserweights. I really think Austin Aries is going to get a big push here. He's been out of action for a while, and I think that's going to make the rivalry even stronger. I'll take Aries in that match.
Yeah, but and I'll agree with that. I think Austin's going to take it because I think he's going to be the face, the lack of a better term, because he's more of a heel, but he's going to be the face that takes away from Neville. The only thing that I want to see that happens out of this is that nobody in this matchup, either Neville or Austin, is bound to the Cruiserweight division. Eventually, I want to see these guys make their way up to WWE title levels because they're both stellar talents at what they do.
100%.
The next match that we have is the SmackDown Women's Championship match, which is Alexa Bliss defending against all SmackDown Live superstars who are available to compete, and I guess we just barely found out a returning former champion Naomi will be contending in WrestleMania.
Yes.
So this has been kind of an interesting plug because of the injury of Naomi for her to be able to win the title back at Orlando, her hometown. But it's also going to include all of the other divisions, the rest of the divisions. So Becky Lynch, Mickie James, a returning Tamina Snuka is rumored to also show up. Natalya. We've got a very loaded card for this one. And who do you think is actually going to walk away with the Women's Championship when the dust has settled?
Also, don't forget James Ellsworth will be at ringside alongside Carmella. Don't forget Ellsworth, man.
Fighting James Ellsworth.
Bliss is the champion right now. Again, this is another match that should not be on the pre-show. I hate how SmackDown's women's division doesn't get the recognition like the Raw division. I get it. Now, we're going to get into the match on Raw, but you do got Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, big top names in the women's division, but you know what? The SmackDown storylines have been so much better, and they deserve they deserve to be treated a lot better like the Raw division does in the women's era. But this match is going to be really good. I'm going to go with the dark horse. I think Mickie James is going to come away with the title and win it. I just feel like she's got some momentum heading into this one. Her and Alexa Bliss have been battling back and forth now. And if I'm correct, it's going to be an elimination match.
Yes.
We'll have to double check that. So that's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. Don't be surprised if it's Mickie James and Alexa Bliss at the end, though.
Exactly, yeah. My prediction is going to be Naomi, and the only reason that I think it's going to happen this way is because I believe it was originally planned for Naomi to walk away in her hometown, the women's champion, for her to retain the title against, I think it was going to be Alexa Bliss and Naomi before this happened. So it will be Naomi, either that or another great thing to do because, well, Mickie James would also be a really great victor. So would Tamina Snuka, and Tamina Snuka is returning. So that would actually be a really great victory for her as well. Going into the next kickoff match, and then we're done with the kickoff. The fourth annual Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Last year, Baron Corbin took the title. We have a few stars that have been announced thus far for the Battle Royal. Who do you think is going to walk away with it, David Vito?
Yeah, a couple of names that you might know. Big Show, Braun Strowman, probably the favorite to win it. Sami Zayn from Raw. Some people from SmackDown will be Mojo Rawley, Apollo Crews, Fandango, Tyler Breeze. Just a couple names like that will be in it. You know what? As much as I would love to see Tyler Breeze break off this Fandango angle and him find a way to win it, it would be great. But how does Braun Strowman not win this match, Adam?
See, here's the thing. Braun is probably my second pick. And the reason I have a number one pick is because, well, I think Big Show's going to walk away with it. Big Show's been through a lot of controversy the last few months because of his match with Shaq, which has now been turned down because of lack of money. And here's the thing. Big Show's getting ready to retire, too. So I almost wonder if this is going to be like that final send-off for the Big Show, for his matches anyway, before he becomes an ambassador for the company. But here's the thing. If it is a Big Show, Braun Strowman has had such a meteoric rise. He's the logical second pick there. Because this would only bolster him like it did Baron Corbin. So I agree with you there. Braun is an easy favorite, but I think because of all the things the Big Show has done, he'll probably get handed that brass ring.
By the way, Mark Henry, Big Show, and Braun Strowman at the end. Just think about that. How awesome would that be?
Oh, that'd be amazing. That would be the stuff legends are made of, as far as I'm concerned, for this Battle Royal. The next match that we have is the Raw Tag Team Championship, which is a triple threat ladder match involving Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, the current champions, Enzo Amore and Big Cass, and Cesaro and Sheamus.
Did you say ladder match?
It is a triple threat ladder match now. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I want the club to retain because I think they're great heel tag champions.
Yeah, like I was talking about the ladder match, you brought it up again. There's speculation of a former tag team that does love to play with ladders, Adam, in the Hardy Boys. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to come out and debut and come away and win the titles, but the way that their contracts have been with Ring of Honor, TNA, this could be a chance for WWE to plug him in and possibly bring the Hardy Boys back.
This actually would be perfect. If that's the reason they made this a ladder match, then that would be perfect because the Hardys are the kings of the ladder match. So, but at the same time, I still want the club to win. I really like them as tag champions.
I would love to see Enzo and Big Cass win. I think they deserve it.
That would also be a good pick because of all of the promotion they've done for the company as well. Up next, we have the Intercontinental Championship up for grabs, where Dean Ambrose is going to be taking on Baron Corbin. And man, that rivalry has been fierce, bordering on attempted murder. But that's where they've been going. So my pick, obviously, I got to go with Baron on this one because Baron has been hyped, I think, enough that, and this would be a big win for him to be able to go back into WrestleMania and gain a victory again. You know, his first one was the Battle Royal. For him to gain the Intercontinental Championship, I think would be more of a boon for his career than Dean, because I think Dean is probably going to either be the premier face for SmackDown for a while, or he's going to be one of the bigger heels for it, because there's already talk that AJ will be moving to Raw. What's your take on this, David Vito?
Yeah, Dean Ambrose against Baron Corbin is going to be a really good battle. Two really big names that really started their careers in NXT and really boasted up when they got to the main roster. I mean, Baron Corbin was great on NXT, but he really needed to be moved up to the roster, I should say, and he's made an impact when he's done it. We haven't seen Dean Ambrose since the attempted murder, as you would call it, on SmackDown Live by Baron Corbin. But yeah, you know what? I think Dean Ambrose hasn't really had that X factor to really defend the Intercontinental title against back and forth with. I think Baron Corbin will win, and he'll have some really good rivalries with some good people with the title.
I agree. Okay, and again, I'm just going to be pumping these things out, people, because we're running out of time. The United States title is also up for grabs, where Chris Jericho will be defending against his former best friend, Kevin Owens. The winner's kind of obvious here because Chris Jericho is literally going from WrestleMania. He's got like an extra month. He's going from WrestleMania to go tour with his band Fozzy, so I have a feeling that Kevin Owens is going to walk away the United States champion. And for good reason. But give me your take on this, David Vito.
Yeah, Chris Jericho against Kevin Owens is going to be a great matchup. The former best friends. Jericho, I would love to see him retain the title, but when was the last time he even defended that title? It's a 30-day clause. We thought, Jericho, what's going on? I think Owens walks away with the title as well in the battle of former best friends.
Exactly. I think that's the only way to be able to properly end it. And that's the way that Chris Jericho would want too. So up next, we have the Raw Women's Championship, which is now a Fatal 4-Way elimination match where Bayley, the current champion, will be defending against Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, and Nia Jax.
Sasha Banks and Bayley are former best friends in this. They're best friends in this battle, and Charlotte Flair was a best friend with them. I wouldn't be surprised if Bayley retains the title, but this is the chance that we see Nia Jax be a very fierce competitor in the women's division. I think Nia Jax is going to win it.
I actually kind of agree with you there. I think Bayley will retain, but this is going to be more of a match to show how strong Nia is. So we're going to have a lot of big spots with Nia Jax, toppling Sasha, toppling Charlotte. But I think in the end, it's probably going to be Bayley retaining the women's championship going into the next year. And then the next match that we have is the SmackDown Live Commissioner versus the Phenomenal One himself, AJ Styles. I've got personally AJ Styles on this one because, well, AJ's going to be going off to Raw in the next little bit. Nothing against Shane McMahon, but I always got to vote for the Phenomenal One.
Shane McMahon losing back-to-back WrestleManias, though, it's going to be kind of weird. And by the way, this is a singles match. Shane McMahon used to all these crazy kind of matches, hardcore matches, Hell in a Cell, ladder, tables. This is going to be a very interesting match to see how good Shane McMahon is and prepared for this match. I'm right there with you. The Phenomenal One's going to win.
I thoroughly believe this. And then moving on into the next match, this one has been hyped since literally September of last year. Seth Rollins versus Triple H will be facing each other in a non-sanctioned match. So people have already been following all of the injury coverage with Seth Rollins. His injury at the hands of Samoa Joe. He was potentially going to miss his second WrestleMania in a row, but they were able to make things work. I've got Seth Rollins. I think that this whole angle has been built for Seth to come over against the King of Kings, to become the Kingslayer, and thus be one of the most premier faces that either Raw or SmackDown could have. What about you, David Vito?
Yeah, Triple H and Seth Rollins are finally going to have the match we've all been waiting for. The leader of the Shield taking on the leader of DX back in the day. The two head-to-head are going to collide. And by the way, he was a part of the Authority. I think Seth Rollins he's 100% healed. And I really think he's going to come out and he's going to shock a lot of people. Because I think a lot of people think he's still kind of injured. And don't be surprised if Seth Rollins beats Triple H with a pedigree.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is going to be a match that's going to set up both. I think it's going to primarily set up Seth Rollins, but Triple H is going to have something to gain from this as well, especially since they're setting up this new Authority. So the next match is John Cena. This is the power couples colliding. John Cena and Nikki Bella versus the Miz and Maurice. The one match nobody wanted. So my prediction is I wish that they would replace this with a proper match.
That's what you want to see happen. John Cena taking on The Miz. Their battles have been nothing but great. I don't know if you're caught up yet, but you have to go back and watch John Cena's promo against The Miz on SmackDown Live. He actually said something that was very inappropriate, that was not rated PG, towards The Miz. So you have to go back and see what he said there. I think John Cena and Nikki Bella are going to roll over these two, and it's going to be unfortunate because The Miz had such a big uprise when he was the Intercontinental Champion as a heel, but he's been nothing but the best heel in WWE in today's era.
Yeah, and he's had really good momentum since last summer. But yeah, since Nikki Bella is actually looking to ride off into the sunset, I agree with you. I think John Cena and Nikki Bella will win, just to give that final victory for Nikki Bella before she goes off to be a full-time producer or whatever she's going to do. So up next is the Undertaker's match, where he's going to be taking on the big dog, Roman Reigns. Who do we think is going to win? My money's on the Undertaker. I think, in all honesty, I know this is going to be a traditionalist thing, and a lot of people are speculating it's a retirement match. I don't think it is, because I think this is going to be yet another favor for the company, and eventually the Undertaker will get his own match. So I'm going to pick Undertaker. I don't think he's losing to Roman Reigns. I don't think he's losing to Roman Reigns right now.
If Undertaker loses, I'm going to be like the Undertaker guy in the stands, that be as shocked as everyone else in the Brock Lesnar match. I don't think this is going to be the Undertaker's last match. I think WWE is trying to tease us to pretend that Roman Reigns is going to be the top face of WWE for years to come, and I think they're going to see a curveball thrown, because guess what? The Undertaker will get the final say of who wins this match, honestly.
Yeah, like I said, I think this is going to be his last favor, and then the next match is what he wants. And I have a feeling, just as much as John Cena wants it, I think he wants it too. So the next one are going to be the two major title spots. We have the Universal Championship, the current champion Goldberg defending against Brock Lesnar. My prediction is that Brocky Poo will walk away with it, because it only makes sense. Goldberg will not be there after WrestleMania. The way I understand his contract, he will not be there. But the funniest thing is Brock isn't scheduled to be there either. So unless Hulk Hogan's coming out of nowhere to win the title and run it with it for 6 months, I don't know what they're going to do with this thing. What do you think?
Yeah, can Seth Rollins cash in his Money in the Bank again after this match is over? Because that'd be the best outcome if everything can happen with those guys. Both contracts are very strange and strictly printed out, we can say. Goldberg against Brock Lesnar, let's be honest, no one wants to see this in the main event. This match better last more than 30 seconds, by the way. Otherwise, the night after WrestleMania is one of the biggest crowds of all time. Think about that crowd if something like that happens in this match.
Yeah, people are going to be pissed. If they don't get longer than, I'm going to say longer than 20 seconds. If they don't get longer than that, you're going to have people rioting in the seats. That's just the bottom line of this. It has to have a monumental payoff, and if it doesn't, it's going to blow up in WWE's faces. And then finally, the one championship match that people are more excited about because of all of the hype recently that's happened. Bray Wyatt, the current WWE champion, will be defending against the Viper, Randy Orton. My pick is on Bray Wyatt. I think that this match has been built to build Bray. And so therefore, even though we're having a bunch of moments where Randy's burning down the house, Sister Abigail was in, we're having him do dark rituals and all that stuff, this is going to be Bray's moment in the sun. I think that's always been the plan for this given rivalry, because Randy really doesn't gain anything from this.
Yeah, Randy Orton against Bray Wyatt, the two former brothers in the Wyatt family, you can say. Randy Orton burning down a house, killing Sister Abigail's spirit, or whatever you want to call it. Was really cool to see it from an Attitude Era fan. You know what, though? I would love to see Randy Orton get one more crack at the championship. Maybe he comes away with it, but you're right. They can't kill all the momentum that Bray Wyatt's on right now. I think Bray Wyatt's going to defeat Randy Orton, but don't be surprised if that's one of the best matches of this WrestleMania card.
I think this is also going to be, this is probably very ambitious. I think this is going to be one of the best matches of Randy Orton's career. So at that point, I think it's going to be a knockdown drag out. It's going to be the best thing that's happened to either one of those athletes. And it's been built up for a good long while now. It's going to be awesome. And yeah, this is going to be the match, the championship match that people want to see. I don't think as many people are hyped for Goldberg, Brock Lesnar as they are for Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton. But I agree with you also. I would love to have the belt around Randy once again. For crying out loud, he's already been talking. He wants a legit heel turn again. He wants to be the silent manipulator. Let him do it. Just, I'm all for it. Give him the belt and let him do it. But that's me. And that's going to go ahead. Yep, and that's going to wrap things up for the WrestleMania card and also for this episode of Why We Geek. It's been a little extra long for you guys, but that just gives you not only a sample of our love for pro wrestling, but also what we do on a weekly basis and the Running the Ropes podcast. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. David, Vito, if people want to ask questions or get with you on your opinions, how do they get in contact with you, my friend?
You can follow me on the social media outlets. For me personally, I'm a big Twitter guy. You can follow me at RealDavidVito on Twitter. It's the same thing on Instagram. You can follow me what I do left and right. If you're a sports fan, check out the updated sporting news on our Facebook page at Sports at Home Radio. All the top news, including the Utah Jazz locally here in Salt Lake City. We do a lot of stuff there. So make sure you check out those pages and follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you guys want to know information. I tweet about Monday Night Raw and SmackDown too all the time. Wrestling fan, follow me.
Yep. So at that point, yeah, those are great ways to be able to find them. And if you guys aren't actually subscribed to the Sports at Home Radio, you should be, because it's one of the best sports podcasts as well as radio shows, I think, out there right now. Especially, I love the Jazz coverage, and I haven't been a Jazz fan in years. So that's an amazing thing to be able to go listen to. If people want to get a hold of me, you can follow my Twitter at Drac2326 and ask the questions there. You can also follow my YouTube channel, Drac2326, where you're at right now. It's where Why We Geek is hosted for the moment until we actually get an RSS feed going. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us for the Why We Geek podcast, as well as for Running the Ropes. Thank you so much, David Vito, for being a guest during WrestleMania season. Here's hoping that WrestleMania season is just as rewarding for you as it will be for me. And of course, we will see you guys next time for the next episode of Why We Geek and Running the Ropes.